Hello, good morning everyone. Thank you for joining the session. And today's session is about Oracle Cloud Revenue Management. Let me give an introduction about Evoke. Evoke Technologies, incorporated in the year 2003, headquartered at Dayton, Ohio, USA. We do have offshore development center at Hyderabad, India. We offer end-to-end IT services, including Oracle, Microsoft, BA and Analytics, QA and testing, and mobility. With respect to Oracle practice, we offer implementation and application maintenance support services for e-business suite as well as Oracle Cloud products. We do have a center of excellence for Oracle products, cloud products, wherein the team is responsible for delivering the cloud engagements. Let me introduce myself. I am Praveen Trivedi. I am a chartered accountant, having 15 plus years of experience into ERP consulting, involving implementations, upgradations, and business transformation activities across industries. My expertise is into financials, both e-business suite and Oracle Cloud, Oracle projects, e-business tax, India localization, Oracle revenue management, and Oracle CX. I am also an Oracle certified revenue management consultant. So let us go through some definitions which may be useful in forthcoming slides. The first one is RMCS, Revenue Management Cloud System. And the next is contract. So let us define a contract in a simple term. So let us assume that organization A is selling goods to organization B at an agreed price on agreed terms and conditions. This is called contract. And organization A is obliged to provide those goods to organization B under agreed terms and conditions. So basically in RMCS, the contract needs to be identified and performance obligations forming part of the contract needs to be identified. So RMCS provides for certain seeded contract identification rules through which a contract can be identified, and similarly for performance obligation identification. However, it also provides user configurable rules wherein we can configure and identify the contracts and the performance obligations. The next is performance satisfaction method. There are two methods. One is require complete, another one is allow partial. When we say require complete, performance obligation needs to be completely satisfied in case of require complete. In case of allow partial, performance obligation can be satisfied partially and revenue will be recognized to the extent the performance obligation has been satisfied. And the next is performance satisfaction model. We have three models. One is the quantity satisfied, next is percentage satisfied, and next is period satisfied. Next is ESP SSP. ESP stands for estimated selling price. SSP stands for standalone selling price. This is nothing but the price at which an organization sells goods or services on a standalone basis in a normal scenario. Now let us go through the agenda. So first we will understand the overview of this module. Then we'll go and understand why RMCS. Then we'll go through components of RMCS. Then we'll go through integrations of RMCS. Then we will have an understanding of the process flow. Then we will understand this module through an illustration. And we'll have an FAQs. And then finally Q&A. So once the session is completed, all the participants can type in their questions in the chat window, and I will try to answer as much as questions possible. Now let us move to the next slide. Overview. See, we all understand that IFRS 15 and ASC 606 provides guidelines and standards for accounting revenue from customer contracts. See, the crux of the standard is that revenue should be recognized in the similar manner of transfer of goods or service to the customers. This standard already being adopted by public companies now is being extended to private companies. and they need to comply in the standard for the reporting periods beginning after December 2018. Let us move to the next slide. Why RMCS? Oracle has developed this module mainly to meet the compliance and accounting requirements of ASC 606 and IFRS 15, and hence provides for easy adoption and implementation. And this being a cloud-based module, okay, it improves the efficiency and productivity, thereby enhancing the user experience. It supports both point-in-time and over-time revenue recognition. This also provides an exception-based dashboard wherein revenue managers can review the exceptions and take required actions. And this module comes with a pre-built integration with Oracle Cloud. This can be integrated with the Business Suite. And this also supports an integration with third-party integration with any system like SAP, Tally, Ramco through FBDA templates. See, we understand that many organizations maintains the details of the contract in a spreadsheet, maintain the contract revisions, details of revenue recognition. All these things are maintained in a spreadsheet, which is being a time-consuming process in terms of maintenance and in terms of reporting. So moving from a spreadsheet-based system to a cloud-based system is going to enhance the user experience and is going to save a huge amount of time so that the revenue managers can actually concentrate on the decision-making process and analyze the details instead of maintaining the details in the spreadsheet. Now let us understand the components of RMCS. The first is identify the customer contracts. Second is identify the performance obligations forming part of the contract. And third one is determine the transaction price. So transaction price is nothing but the selling price or a contract price. And the identification of ESP, SSP, estimated selling price or standalone selling price. And the next is transaction price allocation. So the transaction price needs to be allocated in proportion to the performance obligation, in proportion to the ESP, SSP. And finally, once the allocation is complete, the final step is the revenue recognition and transfer of entries to general ledger. So let us take an example, okay? Let's assume that the customer has given an order for hardware equipment and then an AMC support for this equipment for a period of 12 months. This is a single contract order which customer has given. And let us assume in this example, the customer who has taken this order, an organization which has taken this order is running on Oracle. So as soon as this order is received, this organization would be doing two things. One is for the hardware device, they would be entering a sales order in the order management module. And finally, for AMC support of 12 months, they would be entering a service contract in a service contract module. So even though this being a single contract from the customer, it is being entered as a two different transactions in the module. But from RMCS perspective, if this has to be perceived as a single contract, this can be combined together. So when the data is getting imported into RMCS, the contract from the sales order and the service contract can be combined together and can be viewed as a single contract in RMCS module. So basically, the flexibility is there in RMCS module, wherein the multiple transactions or multiple contracts from the source system can be combined to a single contract based on configurable rules, based on other business parameters. And similarly, a single contract from the source system can be split into multiple contracts based on various factors. So the flexibility is available from either of side, depending upon the business needs and other requirements. Next is the ESP, SSP. The system provides for FBDA templates for uploading the standalone selling prices. And apart from that, there is an option to configure the ESP based on various parameters like based on item, based on the customer, and based on other factors, so that the ESP value will get derived automatically once the contract is imported in the revenue management module. So now let me summarize. Okay, the First thing is identify customer contracts, and second is identify the performance obligations forming part of the contract, and third is determine the transaction price, and then identification of ESP and SSP, and finally the allocation of transaction price to the performance obligations in proportion of ESP SSP, and then final step is the revenue recognition and transfer of entries to GL. Now let us talk about the integrations. So revenue management provides for three kind of integrations. One is Oracle e-business suite, release 12.1.3 and above can be integrated with revenue management module. The below mentioned modules are integrated: order management, service contract, receivables, and general ledger. With respect to Oracle Fusion Cloud, the below modules are integrated: subscription management, service contract, project billing, receivables, and general accounting. And the third integration which revenue management provides is for the legacy systems. So it's not necessary for an organization to run on an Oracle system to have this module implemented. Irrespective of the system, irrespective of the ERP system which is running on the client environment, this revenue management can be integrated, and system provides that functionality. So FBDA templates have been provided wherein the data can be imported into the RMCS module. Let us move to the next slide. Let us understand the process flow. So we understand that contracts or order entry will happen in the respective ERP or legacy system. So once the contracts or orders are fulfilled or shipped, it goes to the AR for billing. Once the billing is completed, it goes to general ledger for accounting. And these contract or order details are imported into the RMCS module. Basically, in the RMCS module, it identifies the customer contracts, identifies the performance obligations forming part of the contract, and identifies the satisfaction model. So once three items are identified, the next is performance satisfaction events. So we'll go to the same example, earlier example which we discussed. When an organization A supplies the goods to the organization B, in accordance to the agreed terms and conditions, it is called performance obligation satisfaction. So that performance obligation satisfaction events needs to be imported to revenue management module. And the next is identification of ESP and SSP. And finally, once these three elements are there, means we have a contract, we have a performance satisfaction event, and we have an ESP SSP in place, then the next step is the allocation of the transaction price to the performance obligations in proportion to ESP SSP. Once the allocation is complete, the next step is revenue recognition, and finally transferring the entries to GL. So I think this summarizes the process flow of the revenue management module. So let us move to the next slide, illustration. Let us understand this illustration in detail. ABC Limited Company provides the below services as part of a contract. The first is retail POS machine for a 500 USD. Next is the extended warranty for 12 months for 600 USD and AMC support for 12 months for 360. The total sale price is 1,460 USD, which is nothing but a contract price. So this is the contract. The elements in the contract like retail POS machine, warranty support for 12 months, AMC support for 12 months. These three are performance obligations forming part of the contract. And the next is we have an ESP SSP wherein the ESP SSP price has been mentioned against each of these items, which represents the standalone price when an organization sells these items on a standalone basis. So now the total of ESP SSP stands for 1,850 USD. Now let us move to the next screen. Okay, this is basically a Oracle Cloud login. Okay, so the person who has logged in has an access to the revenue management cloud. So the revenue management infolet is available. So let us click on the revenue management infolet and it takes us to the overview page of this module. So this is an overview page of the revenue management. So wherein this page provides for certain basic informations like the contracts pending review, wherein the revenue managers can review and take action, the contracts pending allocation, the contracts pending revenue recognition. So wherein the respective managers can review and take actions. On the right side, we have a pen wherein it provides a list of functionalities which is available in the module. So let us go through one by one. First is the customer contracts. In this, we have manage customer contracts. So through manage customer contracts, we can identify any customer contract and you can see the entire history of the contract. Completely right from the identification rule, what is the satisfaction method, what are all the items were sold, what is the performance obligations, what is the selling price, what is the ESP price, whether the revenue has been allocated. So complete information of the history right from the beginning to the end cycle of the contract can be viewed, including the contract revisions, including the accounting entries. A complete history can be viewed through this managed customer contracts. And the next is standalone selling price. So as I said, like system provides an option for uploading SSP values through an FPDA templates. And apart from that, after uploading, if there is any changes or modifications to be done, it can be done through manage observed standalone selling price, wherein we can perform certain modifications. And the next is accounting. So once the contracts are imported and allocation is complete, we can run the process recognition or revenue recognition process, wherein it performs the revenue recognition and then accounting entries gets transferred to the GL. And the next is customers. So in this customers, basically we can manage the customers and we can also upload the customers through FPDA template. So let us assume that, okay, means like we are integrating a revenue management module with a third-party system, which is not running in an Oracle. So in such case, we should have the customer master in sync with the third-party system. So the system provides us an option to upload this through an FPDA template so that the customer masters are in sync with the legacy system and the revenue management module. And the next is revenue management period. Like any other subledger, revenue management also has its period. So wherein we need to open the period for the transactions and for revenue recognition process. Now, let us click on the manage customer contracts, which will take us to the next page. So this page opens up. So wherein we can put in the filter criteria, lots of filter criteria is there. Okay, the contract number, freeze date, status, and the source document type. I'm just putting the filter based on the source document type, which is retail POS, and click on search and click find. So a contract has been retrieved. Contract number 4, the classification of retail POS, the transaction price is 1,460. And the identification rule, the contract identification rule is retail POS. Okay, let us click on the contract number, okay, to understand the further details of the contract. Now we are into the details of the contract. We could see there are 3 items in this contract. Okay, one is the retail POS mission, and the other 2 is basically a warranty and AMC support, wherein these 2 fall under category of service, and the retail POS mission falls under the category of device. If you could see the satisfaction method for the device, line number 3, it says the require complete, meaning this device has to be completely delivered and accepted by the customer for the revenue recognition. That's what it says, require complete. But for rest of the 2 items, like AMC support and warranty support, the satisfaction method is allow partial, which means that we can recognize the revenue to the extent the performance obligation has been performed, or to the extent the service has been provided. So that the satisfaction method is basically allow partial. And the next is it has a selling amount, the selling price against each of these items, and an obligation amount, which displays an obligation amount, and a revenue recognition amount, revenue recognized. So we'll understand how this obligation amount and the revenue amount has been calculated in the next slide. And if you could see the last column, okay, extended SSP, okay, the SSP has been automatically derived for these items based on the pre-configured in the system. So based on this customer and based on the item, an SSP values has been derived by the system automatically to perform the allocation. So now let us go to the next slide to understand the revenue recognition and the performance obligation calculation. Now, the first is basically the item descriptions and the selling price, which you have seen. Okay, selling price total comes to 1,460, and the next column ESP SSP. The total is around 1,850 USD. And now ESP SSP percentage. How is ESP SSP percentage is calculated? So it's basically ESP percentage, ESP price divided by the total of the ESP price into 100. So that gives you a ESP percentage to the total of the ESP value. So in the first case, the retail POS mission, 650 is the retail POS mission standalone selling price. 650 divided by 1,850 into 100 provides for 35.14 percentage. And similarly, for 720, we are calculating the proportion, which is 38.92. And similarly, for AMC support, it comes to 25.95. So once the percentage has been derived, now we need to allocate the transaction price, which is nothing but our selling price of 1,460 needs to be allocated in the ratio of 35.14, 38.92, and 25.95 ratios. And this amount represents the performance obligation amount or the complete revenue which needs to be recognized. So if you could see the last column, which says about the allocated revenue or obligation amount for the retail POS mission, it is 512.97, which is nothing but 1,460 transaction price into 35.14 percentage, which is 512.97. And similarly for warranty, it is 568.22, and for AMC support, it is 378.81. These are all the obligation amounts of the contract, and this would be the final revenue which should be recognized on this contract. So now let us go back to the previous slide and compare whether the system has calculated the same amount. So for the retail POS mission, it is 512.97. Let us go back to the earlier slide. Yes, I am under the obligation amount in the last third column, 512.97, which is for device. And next is, we'll go through the warranty. The warranty is 568.22. Could see 568.22 in the second row for the warranty. And now for the AMC support, it is 378.81. Let us go back and check. Yes, the first column, first row, 378.81 against the obligation amount. So this is the obligation amount. Now we can see the revenue recognized. Okay, so against the device, which is the third item, the obligation amount is 512.97, and the revenue recognized is also 512.97. So here, as the revenue recognition satisfaction method is require complete, the complete delivery and satisfaction has been completed. So an entire amount has been recognized as a revenue. But in case of the first line item, which is basically AMC support, okay, it is 378.81 is the total obligation amount or the total amount of revenue which needs to be recognized. But revenue recognized for this month is 31.56. As we say that since this satisfaction model is allow partial, we can recognize the revenue to the extent the service has been provided. So this is 378.81 divided by 12, which comes to 31.56. This is the revenue which has been recognized for the month. And similarly for the extended contract, which is 568.22 divided by 12, which gives us 47.35, which is the amount which is being recognized as a revenue for this month. So I hope everyone would have understood by this illustration what is the contract, what is the performance obligations, and what is the extended selling price, and how the obligation amount has been calculated, and how the transaction price is allocated to the obligation amount in proportion to the ESP SSP, and finally how the revenue is recognized. Now let us go through certain FAQs. The first is whether RMCS can be implemented as a standalone module. The answer is yes. As we have discussed earlier, this module can be implemented on a standalone basis, irrespective of the system which the customer is using. The next is, can we consider only few transaction types for revenue recognition in RMCS? Yes, the system provides the configurations in such a way that we can consider only a few transaction types or sources for the revenue recognition. The next is whether accounting entries generated from RMCS can be transferred to a secondary ledger or reporting ledger instead of main ledger. Yes, this can be done, as every organization wants to review the transactions, allocations, and revenue recognition and pricing policies in a detail. Okay, it can do a couple of iterations and finally it can transfer the data or accounting to secondary ledger and do the analysis for some period. Post analysis, once the organization is comfortable, then they can start transferring the entries from RMCS to the main ledger until they could transfer the entries to secondary ledger or reporting ledger for analysis. And the next question is, for e-business suite and RMCS integration, how does the item and customer master gets integrated? See, these, as we know that e-business suite runs on a different application and RMCS being on a cloud. So when we try to integrate these items, these two elements like item master and the customer master should be synced, okay, for the contract to flow. So there are two options available. One is FBDA template. We can use the FBDA templates provided by the system to upload the item master and the customer master so that these two data elements are in sync with the source and the destination system. Apart from this, we can also have web services in place so that like this item master and this customer master can be in sync and automatically. So we are done with FAQs. Now, let us go through the Q&A. So as I said, I request participants to type in their questions in the chat window so that we can discuss one by one. Okay, thank you, friends. I hope everyone would have enjoyed this session, and thanks for joining and supporting this. Thank you.